coming to the next part of the lecture. In this particular lecture, I'll be dealing with economic dispatch problem. We'll look into the actual problem formulation. Next, we will discuss about the method of optimizing unconstrained objective function and how this is different from optimizing a constrained objective function. And then coming to constrained objective function, the optimization is through Lagrange's method, and this particular method will be used to solve economic dispatch problem. So these aspects will be covered in this particular lecture. Now next, economic dispatch problem. So here we will study about the problem formulation of economic dispatch. So we'll consider n generating thermal units. So there are n thermal units, and these n thermal units are connected to a bus bar which will supply payload. Now each of these thermal unit will have a power output P1, P2, so on till Pn. These thermal units will have certain fuel input which is given as F1, F2, so on till Fn. So these fuel input are function of the power output, that is PGI, or I can simply write it as PI. So fuel input is a quadratic function of the power output. For every thermal unit you can express F1 or F2 or any fuel input Fi as a quadratic function of power output of that particular thermal unit. So every unit is expressed by this the same quadratic function, and the sum of all this fuel input is taken as Ft. So I can write Ft is equal to F1 plus F2 so on till Fn, or I can also write as summation I equal to 1 to n Fi of Pi, that is each fuel input is a function of power output. Now this power output of each generator, when you take a summation of this power output from each thermal unit, it should be equal to P load plus P loss. Now here it is one single bus bar, so for this particular function P loss can be approximated to 0, but for some other power system cases this will be some non-zero value. So always the sum of all power output of n thermal units should be equal to the demand, the power demand, plus the loss in this system. So this becomes your equality constraint. So if you are using optimization technique, this becomes your equality constraint. So next, each generating unit will have certain minimum limit and maximum limit on its generation. That is given by this particular inequality constraint. So you will have one equality constraint and n number of inequality constraint. So the total number of constraint in this particular optimization problem will be equal to n plus 1. Each generating unit will give you n number of inequality constraint and you will have one equality constraint. So total number of constraint in this particular problem will be equal to n plus 1, and this entire function that you can see Ft is equal to F1 plus F2 plus F3 plus so on till Fn, this becomes your objective function. The goal of this optimization problem is to minimize this particular function, that is Ft, and Ft is nothing but summation of I equal to 1 to n Fi of Pi. So Ft is a function of power output of each thermal unit. So this is your actual economic dispatch problem. You have to calculate P1, P2, Pn so that Ft is as minimum as possible, and also these values should fulfill these two constraints. Both the constraint has to be satisfied by P1, P2, Pn. So you will have your unknown, this P1, P2, Pn will become your unknown values. These are the values which are supposed to be found out using optimization problem. Coming to next, before discussing about optimizing constrained objective function, we will just look into how we optimize an unconstrained objective function. This is nothing but we have a function f of x. We have to either maximize or minimize this function f of x. Now the procedure to maximize or minimize f of x function is all known to us. We have studied this already in mathematics. It is nothing but we differentiate this f of x with respect to x and then we equate it equal to 0. So when you equate that f dash of x to 0, you will get the condition for maxima or minima. That particular value or any condition that you get, that condition will be substituted in this particular f of x function and we will get the maximum or minimum value. So as an example, you can say y of x is equal to x square minus x. Now you have to find the minimum value of this. So you differentiate this function, you will get 2x minus 1 and you will equate it to 0. So you will get x value equal to 1 by 2. Now this is the condition. X equal to 1 by 2 is the condition. So when you substitute this value to y of x here, you will get the minimum value of y of x. Now the similar procedure will be used for an unconstrained optimization problem. So that is done using Lagrange's method. Now coming to Lagrange's method, this is a method to find the local minima or local maxima. Now this particular Lagrange's method is used only when you have equality constraint. If you have inequality constraint, there is a small deviation or there is a small modification in this particular method, but the original Lagrange's method can be used to only those optimization problem which has only equality constraint. Clear? So now coming to any optimization problem, you have two functions. One is constrained objective or cost function. This is your cost function f of x1, x2, xn. This particular f function or the cost function is a function of x1, x2 so on till xn. Similarly, you will have an equality constraint where equality constraint is given by this particular equation. G of x1, x2 so on till xn will be equal to c, where c is some constant. So this is equality constraint function. Now the objective of optimization problem is to minimize f function such that g equal to c satisfies. Now this is a f is a constraint objective function. Now in this particular Lagrange's method, this constrained objective function or cost function is converted into unconstrained objective function. Clear? Once you have converted into unconstrained objective function, we will use simple differentiation method that we had used in this particular method. The same method will be used in order to calculate, in order to find out the condition for local minima or maxima. Clear? So coming to the next. Now how will you convert an constrained objective function? This is a constrained objective function. You have a particular constraint here. Now you need to convert this f of x into unconstrained objective function. Now that is done using Lagrange's multiplier lambda. Now this lambda is used to convert the constrained objective function to unconstrained objective function. Now the new constrained objective function is given by this particular expression. Now this function is the unconstrained objective function, which is equal to the constrained objective function plus Lagrange's multiplier lambda into the inequality constraint. So you have objective function plus lambda into equality constraint. Now this will give you an unconstrained objective function. Now the next procedure is to find the condition for local maxima or minima for this particular function. Now this is our new function. This is our new function. You have to minimize or maximize this particular function using a simple differentiation rule. Now here you can see that f is a function of x1, x2, x3 so on till xn, g is a function of x1, x2, x3 so on till xn, and c is a constant. Okay, so you have x1, x2, x3 so on till xn as one variable set, and you have one more variable, that is lambda. So this unconstrained objective function is a function of x1, x2, x3 so on till xn, as well as this Lagrange's multiplier. So when you are differentiating it, you have to differentiate it with respect to both x and lambda. X is a vector which consists of all the variables, that is x1, x2 till xn, and lambda is a scalar variable. So this unconstrained objective function is differentiated both with respect to x and lambda. So the necessary condition for local minima will be as follows. So you will partial differentiate this function with respect to xi, that is 1 xi, I will be equal to 1 to n. So you can, first one is to differentiate it with respect to x1, then x2, and so on till xn. Clear? And then the next condition will be obtained when you differentiate this particular function with respect to lambda, that is Lagrange's multiplier. So you will get two conditions for local minima or local maxima. So when you differentiate this with respect to xi, so this is the function you get, dou f by dou xi plus lambda dou g by dou xi. So since this c is a constant, this gets eliminated, this becomes 0. Lambda in this when you partial differentiate it with respect to xi, lambda also acts as a constant. G is a function of xi, f is a function of xi. So you will have dou f by dou xi plus lambda into dou g by dou xi. I varies from 1 to n. This entire equation will be equated to 0. So from here you will get one necessary condition. The next one is to differentiate this with respect to lambda, that is Lagrange's multiplier. So when you differentiate this with respect to lambda, f becomes a constant because it does not have any lambda term. This second term is having a lambda term. This g minus c acts as a coefficient. So when you differentiate this function with respect to lambda, g minus c is what you get. So this is equated to 0. Now g minus c equal to 0. This is the original constraint. This is the original constraint that we have taken. And so the condition for local minima you get from this particular expression, that is the first expression is used to get the condition for local minima or maxima. Now this particular concept is used for economic dispatch problem. Now again we'll consider the same set of n thermal units. Each unit will have an operating cost rate Fi, and it is scheduled to generate PGI. Now we need to optimize Ft, that is summation of Fi, such that the Ft is, we need to optimize it so that we can minimize this Ft function, and we should, from that minimization, we should find out the value of P1, P2, Pn. So the actual problem here is what is the value of P1, P2 till Pn so that Ft is as minimum as possible. So that is the next concept. Now coming to the economic dispatch problem, I have told you we have to minimize this function subjected to constraint Pd minus summation I equal to 1 to n Pgi is equal to 0. So you have an objective function and there is a equality constraint. So when you use this is a constrained optimization problem. Now you have to convert it into unconstrained optimization problem or unconstrained objective function by using Lagrange's multiplier lambda. So you have the objective function f of t, that is constrained objective function, plus Lagrange's multiplier into the equality constraint, that is Pd minus summation I equal to 1 to n Pgi is equal to 0. So this function is added here. Now this becomes your unconstrained cost function. Now this is differentiated with respect to Pgi, and this is differentiated with respect to lambda. This is partial differentiated with respect to Pgi and partial differentiated with respect to lambda. So when you partially differentiate it with respect to Pgi, so you will get dou ft minus dou pgi minus lambda, dou ft by dou pgi minus lambda is equal to 0. So here this PD is constant, so this becomes 0 when you differentiate it. Here PGI, summation PGI will have P1 plus P2 plus PGI plus Pn. So P1, P2 all gets becomes 0. So it is lambda into 1, because if you differentiate it with respect to PGI, that becomes 1. Clear? So you will have dou ft by dou pgi minus lambda is equal to 0. So this is one condition. The next condition is obtained when you differentiate it with respect to lambda. So this becomes 0. So this is the only expression you will have after you differentiate it with respect to lambda. Now this is the original constraint of the problem. So the condition for local minima is obtained using equation number 5. So we use equation 5 to get the condition for local minima, or to minimize the function ft. So ft is summation of f1 plus f2 plus so on till fi, so on till fn. Now when you differentiate this function, or when you partial differentiate this function with respect to dou pgi, f1 and fn, all this term becomes 0. So only term you will have is dou fi divided by dou pgi. So this fi is completely function of pgi. You don't have any other variable present in this. So it is only pgi variable that is present in the function fi. So I can write dou fi by dou pgi is equal to dfi by dpgi. So you get equation 6, where dou ft by dou pgi is equal to dfi by dpgi. So now from equation 5 I can write, so this is from equation 4 I can write dou fi by dou pgi is equal to lambda. This I can also write it as dfi by dpgi. That will not make any difference. So fi is given by this particular quadratic function. So when you differentiate this with respect to pgi, you get bi plus 2ci pgi. This bi plus 2ci pgi will be equal to lambda. So if you substitute this particular equation 8 in equation 7, you get bi plus 2ci pgi is equal to lambda. So when you simplify this expression, you get pgi is equal to lambda minus bi divided by 2ci. So if you know the value of Lagrange's multiplier, you can calculate the power output of each generator unit. So using lambda I can calculate pg1, pg2, pg3, pg4, so on till pn, because bi and 2ci will be known to us. This is given from the cost function, so we know these constant values. So using lambda value we can calculate the power output of each generator. Now the next question is, how do we know the value of lambda? So that is, we can see it in the next slide. Now before going to the next slide, here you can see that equation 7, that is this equation, dou fi by dou pgi is equal to lambda. So you can see that for each unit, the incremental production cost, that is when you differentiate it with respect to PGI, you get incremental production cost. Now this is the operating cost rate. When you differentiate it with respect to output, you get incremental fuel cost or incremental production cost. So for each unit, if I take for first unit, dou f1 by dou pg1 will be equal to lambda. Similarly, this is equal to dou f2 by dou pg2, which is equal to dou f3 by dou pg3, so on till dou fn by dou pgn. So you can see that for each unit, this incremental production cost has to remain same, or every unit must operate at equal incremental production cost. Now this equation we call it as coordination equation. Now in order for successful economic scheduling problem, we have to make sure that all plants must operate at equal incremental production cost. Only then we can make all the units to operate at economical scheduled output. Yeah. So from coordination equation we can write that for economic scheduling of generation, to meet a particular load demand PD, when the transmission losses are neglected and generator limits are not imposed, all the plants must operate at equal incremental production cost, subjected to the constraint that total generation be equal to demand. So this is the necessary condition for economic scheduling of generation. So this is very important when it comes to economic scheduling of generation. Now the next part is to find out the value of lambda. Now we know that from equation 2 we have PD is equal to summation I equal to 1 to n PGI. So now PGI we can calculate using equation 9. We have got a relation for PGI. So when I substitute, I get equation 10. Clear? Now from equation 10, I can get the value of lambda. So lambda will be expressed as PD plus summation I equal to 1 to n Bi divided by 2Ci whole divided by summation I equal to 1 to n 1 divided by 2Ci. So using equation 11, which is a very important expression, we get the analytical solution of lambda. So once we get this particular lambda value, we can calculate the PGI, that is power output of each generating unit. So then we can actually get the generation schedule. So this is the entire economic dispatch problem when generator limits as well as line losses are neglected. Now we will see an example of how this entire expression can be used to get the generation schedule. So coming here, we have two units which has following cost curves. F1 and F2 values are given. This 120, 22, 0.05 are your A, B, C values respectively for first unit. Similarly, A, B, C values for your second unit will be 120, 16 and 0.06. Now for these values, you have to calculate PG1 and PG2 such that the total load is 80 megawatt. So PD is equal to 80 megawatt. So we will use this particular expression to calculate the lambda value. So we substitute the value of B1, B2, C1, C2 and then we substitute the value of PD. We get lambda is equal to 23.637 rupees per megawatt hour. The unit of Lagrange's multiplier is rupees per megawatt hour. So once you get this lambda value, then you can calculate PG1 using this particular expression, that is lambda minus Bi divided by 2Ci. So you substitute the value of lambda and B and C value, you will get PG1. PG2 can be again calculated using the similar expression, or you can also use this particular expression. PG1 plus PG2 will be equal to power demand. So PG2 can be calculated by 80 minus 16.37 megawatt. So you will get 63.63 megawatt. So for this particular problem where we have neglected the generator limits, the line losses are neglected. So in order to calculate the generation schedule, we calculate the lambda value using this expression, and from there we will calculate the power output using this particular expression. So this is how the economic schedule is calculated when generator limits and line losses in the power system are neglected. Thank you.